Okay, good morning everyone. We're continuing in Mishnah Berura Daf Hashavua. We're learning Siman Kuf Lamed Zayin Seif Gimel. Siman Kuf Lamed Zayin Seif Gimel. In Seif Gimel, we spoke about what if they skipped a Pasuk. So if it was Mincha on Shabbos or Monday and Thursday, and you read 10 Psukim, besides the Pasuk that was skipped, you don't go back. Otherwise, you go back. But on Shabbos, even if you skipped one Pasuk, you go back. Even if you put away the Torah and you said Kaddish, you have to go back, read a Pasuk and another two with it. Even if you read Mafter and you daven Musaf, you have to go back. So now we're up to the end of the Mechaber. Parshiyos Hamoyadim. The Parshas of the Yomim Tovim, Kamay b'mincha, Dinam Kamay b'mincha b'Shabbos, b'Sheni, b'Chamishi. If you missed a Pasuk on the Yomim Tovim, it's like on a Monday or Thursday. Why? Just like a Monday and Thursday, it's not a big deal, as long as you read the requisite number of Psukim, because you're going to read the Parsha on Shabbos, so the Parsha Moedim, you're going to read those Psukim in the regular course of Kriyas HaTorah throughout the year. Because you already read the Parshiyos on those Shabbosos. Okay. The Mishnah Berura says, Dinam Kamai, Umayri Shal Kapanim Kare Lachamisha Gavri Shloisha Psukim L'Cholechad. They're talking about where you read 3 psukim for all the 5 oilam on Yom Tiv, Kadin. Dilav hachi otherwise, bevadei choyzer v'kareh, you definitely will have to go back because you need to have at least 5 aliyos of 3 psukim each. V'ayim b'magen ram shekasav, du'adinim dileg eza pasuk me'ab psukim shekar b'seir v'tara shniya lamafter avor choyves hayom. Look in the Magen Ram, the same din would apply if you skipped a pasuk from the psukim that you read in the Sefer Torah for the second kriya. Dahainu psuke karbon musaf she'enoi chayzi, you don't go back. Im loy shechisar ikaran shal hapsukim legamri. Unless you skipped the principle of the psukim completely. What does that mean? Dahainu b'Shabbos she'era ba yom aleph d'cholamayt sukkos. Let's say Shabbos that came out on the first day of Cholamayt Sukkot. So the Kriya is Uvayahim Hasheni Shakorin Lamafter Uvayom Hasheni. You read Uvayom Hasheni, Uvayom Hashlishi. So if you skip the words V'hudila Uvayom Hashlishi, Afal Pi Shakar Uvayom Hasheni, even though you said the pasuk Uvayom Hasheni, but if you skip the pasuk Uvayom Hashlishi, Havakilu Lo Kara Klal Mechayves Hayom. It's like you omitted the main obligation of the day. Ledidan de bekin bekviyah de yarcha. In other words, let's say Shabbos came out on the first day of Cholamayt Sukkos. So the mafter you read Ubayom Hasheni, Ubayom Hashlishi. And let's say you skipped Bayom HaShlishi, even though you said Bayom HaSheni. Now, Bayom HaSheni was already read on the second day of Sukkot. So for us that were Bekiyan B'Kviyah D'Yarcha, we know for sure it's the third day of Sukkot. So he left out the main day. He didn't say the pasuk Bayom HaShlishi. We know it's the third day, so that means you left out Me'ikar and Shal Yom. You would have to go back and read that pasuk.
You mean those words, Bayom HaShlishi, or you mean the day, the full thing?
The pasuk. Now, anytime we're talking about the pasuk, l'chara those words also. Miyu imkaro vayom hashlishi v'dileg v'loy kar vayom hasheni. If you read the pasuk vayom hashlishi and you didn't read vayom hasheni, einu chazer l'kres b'bracha. You don't go back and read again. Ela poiseach haSefer Torah. You open up the Sefer Torah, v'koirei elo apsukim, and you read these psukim l'fnei hatzibur b'loy bracha. V'ayin be'Eliyahu Rabbah, look in the Eliyahu Rabbah Shahoisef Oid. He adds further. Sometimes, even if you skip one pasuk, you go back to read with a bracha. For example, Kagoin shadileg b'mashikaran lamafter b'yom aleph shel Pesach. Let's say you skipped from the mafter, the first day of Pesach, of the pasuk v'hikravtem ulahala ad lechaper aleichem. Let's say you skip the main pasuk of the offering of the karbanos for that day. The misham v'hala, from there and on, it is not as much connected to the Chavas Hayom, but that first pasuk v'hikravtem is Oviyam Aleph Shel Sukkos, and on the first day of Sukkos, Im Dileg Eza Pasuk, if you skipped any pasuk, May V'hikravtem, from V'hikravtem at Seif HaParsha, Oy Shechiser B'yom Aleph Shel Chol HaMoed, or if you skipped on the first day of Chol HaMoed, Kishachal B'Shabbos, Eza Pasuk Shumi Parshas Vayom HaShlishi, that would also be considered skipping Me'ikara Shel Yom. Meaning, if you skipped on the first day of Chol HaMoed, Sukkos, when it comes out on Shabbos, any of the psukim from Uvayom HaShlishi, then you would have to go back because those psukim are Me'ikara Shel Yom. So even though in general the rule is if you skip a pasuk on Yom Tif, it's not a big deal as long as you read a requisite number of psukim, because you're going to eventually read those psukim in the course of the Kriyas Torah throughout the year. But if you left out the main obligation of the Kriya of that day, then you would have to go back. Siv Daled. Imkara echad shnei psukim. If a person who got an aliyah read only 2 psukim, tzarich lachzar v'likros, he has to go back and read. If somebody went and read 2 psukim, he has to go back and read, because he has to read 3 psukim. V'imloi karei ben shlashtan ela tisha psukim. If among 3 oilam you only read 9 psukim, shloisha l'chol echad, einam tzricham lachzar v'likros. You don't have to go back. V'raya l'davar Parsha Amalek. The raya is the Parsha of Amalek. So there's a question about that, because we said by Amalek, it's permitted because it was Salik Inyana. But Lamaisa, even where the Inyan is not finished, we could still learn out from Amalek that b'diavad it will work. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah Kata on Yud Beis. Yud Gimel we'll see tomorrow. Shnei psukim, av shebein hakol karei asar psukim. Let's say one oila was 4, one was 2, and one was 4. So you read 10 among the 3. Kagoin sheshnayim shalvanu kara baraba. Fil hakit tzarich lachzav v'likros. Ein kriya chashuva pachas shel psukim. It is not considered a kriya less than 3 psukim. What if you read 2.5 psukim? The Imre Yosher, the Das Torah, the Zachar Li Avram, the Shalosh Tshuvas Har Tzvi says you don't have to go back, because that's also considered 3 psukim. I call pasuk shlei pasuk Moshe ein paiskin oisai. That's only l'chad chila. But b'diavad, it would be okay. If I'm not mistaken, Rav Moshe has a tshuva that if you read 2 psukim for 1 aliyah in Vayikra, where clearly our count of the psukim is different than the Gemara, which means really there are more psukim than we lein, so you don't go back. You don't have to go back. Why? Because Safek Brachas Lahakel, it could be, even though you think you only lein 2 psukim, we really leaned 3 psukim. But Moshe says it depends where in the Sefer Torah you're reading. There's certain locations where we know we're off from the count of the Gemara. So, misafek, there's a possibility that maybe they're really 3 psukim. You laned more psukim than you actually stopped for. The Mishnah continues, because of Atazu Adin b'Shachris b'Shabbos, Af Achar Shekar Shiva Krum Kadin. Let's say Shachris and Shabbos, after you called up 7 oilam. Im Eira Shekar Echad Achar Zeh Shnei Psukim Nami Choyzer Mahai Tam Shekosavnu. Let's say you called up 7 people, and then in the Achroin, you called up 2, it's still not an aliyah. Because it's not a kriya. It's not just it's not an aliyah. That's not considered a kriya. You would have to go back and do it again. We'll see tomorrow regarding a bracha. Do you go back and lane with a bracha? We'll see that in Sivkatan Yud Gimel.